Well, you know what? I have to invite both of you onto my show. It's early in the morning, so don't hate me. Don't hate me. Please don't hate me. But I want to have you on because I really, what I love about the conversation that I've had with you both tonight is that it's a healing conversation. I walk away from this conversation with you, Representative Ann Williams, and you, Representative LaShawn Ford, feeling hopeful. Really, bringing all sides of town together. And I think that's really important. We really, 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 really need that at the end of the day, because we're all Chicagoans and we want our city to be healed. We want it to be together, and we want it to be safe. And we want people to make livable wages. We want people to have housing. There should be a floor beneath which no human being should fall. And I think Chicago, the city of big shoulders, can offer that. And so, God bless us. And God bless you both.
Well, thank you. And like I said, Santita, you did a great job putting together the north side, south side, and west side. And Terrell Nichols from the 32nd District is also here to weigh in if you have time.
Oh, come on. Bring them in right now.
I mean, I
How are you?
thought I was the third wheel or something.
You're not the third wheel. We love you. Come on now. Mwah.
I know you do. I know you do. No, I'm everybody here. Hey, let's talk about something just on real quick though, right? Like this election.
Hmm.
You know, you touched on something, but you didn't give me the truth.
I got to leave that for you. I can't do it all.
So I know you, city of Chicago has 77 communities, right? And it's probably one of the most segregated cities in the United States of America. And it seems that, anything and everything that happens to black people.
Hmm.
Like you got the pandemic. We suffer from the pandemic. We talk about contracts. We don't get contracts. So, like, we go down the line, but when you start talking about, we're looking at professional sports, then we're looking at Michael Jordan, Walter Payton. It's like we're valued in ways that does not really bring a lot of value to our community. When we talk about who will be the next mayor, the next mayor has to look at all 77 communities, and you have to have equity and inclusion. In our pillars, the Black Caucus pillars, we got equity and inclusion. And I'll leave you with this. Black folk, we ain't never said we are better than nobody. We not talking about we trying to jump nobody. But we got other communities because we're inclusive. We allow everybody to come in, but yet still we're fighting for the peanuts that's left over. Everybody wants the same thing. Good schools, good parks, good neighborhoods where you got jobs and employment. But when you look at Inglewood and Austin, there is no equity balance. And that's what the next mayor needs to start talking about is the equity balance of 77 communities. Love you. Thank you.
Love you. And you know what? I invite you to be on my show because indeed we've been talking about that. The fact that we don't have access to, thank you so much, Bedalia, it's live radio. The fact that we do not have access to contracts, city contracts. Indeed, Boeing makes the bulk of its money from federal contracts. These companies have been built and in many cases are being propped up by your tax dollars. So we've got to look at that. We've got to look at rebuilding our school system so that it works for everybody. Excuse me. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's no greater leader in this particular fight than you, Representative LaShawn Ford. Your closing thought.
Well, I got to tell you, I want to thank you, Jackson, for the sacrifices. I want to close with your father being a hero for this nation. And I just pray that while he's still vibrant, that America recognize
I'm
his
on StreamYard.
contributions to
Oh,
our
keep it up.
country. This is the
Oh,
last Black History Month and our American funeral. And thank you for your sacrifices, having a father that really, really gave so much to their country. Yeah.
bless your heart, and I thank you for that. But I tell you what, as I've been with my parents today, one of the things that I've learned from him is that it's not a him, it's a them. And I have to thank my mother, who is a great organizer, for being the support. And because it takes two, it takes men and women. It takes all of us to come together and make a decision to make a better world. And I thank God for them both. And I thank you for
I guarantee you, there's no Reverend Jackson without Miss Jackson.
Oh, well, first of all,
You know it.
we know you know that. But but I want to thank you for that. And you know what? And now we have work upon, and we stand on his shoulders, and we've got to build. We've got to continue to do that. And I want to thank you both for your work. I know LaShawn. I've known him a long time, and one of the things that I've always respected about him, appreciated, and that I've loved is that you have such a young man who has such a heart for service. And it's just such a blessing. You're such a gift. And I hope that our community will really appreciate all that he has sacrificed, all that you both have sacrificed to really make our lives better. And I thank God for you. And I'm going to get your numbers from Bedalia because if I can get you all on my show in the morning, first thing.
I got your number.
Yeah, I know you got my number and you got my email too.
Yeah.
That's why I was loving what you put out there about will Chicago win? Who's going to mean Chicago needs to win? And I hear you. And that's my theme tonight. How can Chicago win? How can we win? Sending you both much love, but I'm going to get numbers because I'm going to call you because you all need to come on the show. It'll be early. And just don't hate me. Don't
All right. All right.
hate
Have
me.
a good night.
Love you both. We have got Dr. Robert Starks, preeminent political scientist. And the beautiful thing, Bedalia, is that Dr. Starks has also been an activist. I grew up with him as a staff member at Rainbow Push, but what black folks call everybody doctor. But he actually is a PhD. and so, and so I was like, oh, okay. So he really is a professor. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight. We more than 240,000 people as of this morning had already voted. They're saying that some of the in-person voting has been a little sluggish, but people really took advantage of voting. But in the post-COVID-19 world, everything has changed. A lot of things we do from home. What do you make of this race? Um, what do you make of what we've seen, and what do you? I mean, can you even call tonight?
This has been a history making election, and I think it's going to take a long time for us to really get a handle on what has happened because there will be a runoff, and there's a possibility that it will take at least 2 weeks or so before we know the final tally on who is actually going to be in the runoff because there are a lot of votes, as you just stated, that have not been counted, mail-in ballots, etc., early voting, and there's Mayor Lightfoot is saying, and if she comes in, if anybody comes in with less than that 5%, then she would call for a recount. So that's a possibility. So we're talking about uh, all kinds of things. And of course, lastly, we may have runoffs in the automatic elections.
Unbelievable. Do you think that what is ranked choice voting? And do you think that would be a wiser route for us to take? Because we're always having these runoffs. I mean, what do you think?
It's similar to a runoff, but I really don't know because I don't know how the public will warm up to that kind of voting. It's a
Hmm.
possibility. Just as we switched after Richard Daley was elected in 1980. We switched from a partisan election to a nonpartisan election. It took a little while to get accustomed to that. So I don't know. I think we'd have to really look at that seriously before we institute it. What do you think?
I don't know. Because I've not seen it enough to I've seen it in San Francisco. I've seen it in my old home of New York, and yeah, but I mean, but just having been a New Yorker for so long, I understand how the city works, and I see like, if I were there, if I had to get into the booth and say this is my first choice, my second choice, yeah, I really don't want to vote that way, but I can understand how some people say that does work because functionally we end up in a runoff anyway. I mean, it's because that's what it. I don't know. I really, honestly, I do not know because I need to know more about it.
If we go that route, I would suggest very strongly that we have a great deal of public education as to what it is and how it works, because I wouldn't want people going into it without fully understanding how it works and
Mm.
potential outcomes could be.
Well, so where do we go from here, Dr. Starks? I mean, what if okay, if the mayor calls for, um, she says if you have this, yeah, a recount, what will that be like?
That would be another big fight and people calling each other names and people, it would be catastrophic. But again, it's
Ooh.
legal. There's no reason why she shouldn't, if indeed it merits that. So she's already said it, and I think she would do it. Uh, However, she has a good chance of being in the runoff tonight.
Why do you say? Why do you think that she has a good chance? Why?
Well, because she has the most name recognition
Hmm.
and she has been out in the public all over the city. She was on radio all day today, and and she again she's the mayor of the city and has the greatest name recognition. So I think she has a possibility of being in the
Hmm.
runoff.
Well, I mean, look, the power of the incumbency has power.
Exactly, exactly. I would be quite surprised if she ends up winning straight out.
Hmm.
If if she gets into the runoff, I think it would be it wouldn't be a surprise to most people.
Hmm. Well, everybody, I mean, we will see. I mean, I think it's very exciting. I'm heartened by the fact that there was so much early voting. A little confused by the fact that they said that in-person voting was sluggish. Uh, but so I'm like, who voted?
That that I am upset about is the lack of young people
Hmm.
voting. I thought the young people's votes would be increased by the fact that you had Jamal Green,
Hmm.
who pitched his speeches and his commercials to primarily young people. I thought he could rally young people to come to the polls, but apparently the young vote was not as as high as was expected.
Well, I think that what we have to understand, Dr. Starks, is that when you see people like Reverend Jackson and Dr. King, who are really like once in a lifetime people, they are what so many people miss is how hard these people work. Um, I mean, this is something you're obsessed with and you do it all day, every day. So you don't organize in a season. You organize for a reason, which means you're organizing all the time. I mean, every single 360, 24/7, 365. And yeah.
As was demonstrated today when Operation Push was open and helping people get to the polls and doing those things and directed by Reverend Jackson.
Over 50 years, this is what we do. Well, before we go, I know I've got a hard break. 30 seconds, they belong to you.
Well, let's hope that everything comes out okay. I don't think we will settle and find out who actually won in a short period of time. I think it will take us at least 2 to 3 weeks to
What?
actually find out who has won this race.
Bedalia, can you believe he said that? what? I feel like this is a presidential contest. I mean, what? Oh, my word. You know what? Well, he'll be on with me in the morning. I'm on from 6 to 8, and and I'll be back here in another hour. But who did you vote for? You know what? I wish I could go Roosevelt, but that's okay. That's okay. That's so because he's going to talk about who he voted for. But you know what? I'm glad that you voted. So many people did vote, but we will be hearing more from this brilliant political scientist as he holds class tomorrow morning. Because Vidalia, what he does is ask questions. He doesn't answer them. He asks questions, and the answers are in his questions, and you feel like I'm not
Oh,
smart
wow.
enough for this. Let me just shut up and learn. So we love you, Dr. Robert Starks. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Oh, of course, everybody. You know, we've got Patty Vasquez and we have got Joan Esposito and people out in the field. You don't want to miss. It's the wall to wall coverage on the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT. Call us at 773 763 9278, 773 WCPT. We want to hear from you. Matt's knocking at the door. Come on in here, Matt. We're about to go to this break right now.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. See how ComEd is preparing for a clean energy future at ComEd.com/clean energy.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center and meteorologist Megan Mulford. Overcast skies tonight with scattered rain showers likely. Lows level off around 38.
Man.
Easterly winds 8
Wait,
to
is Joni
15
coming
miles
in
an
here?
hour.
She's on
Highs
dial
around
line
57
Okay.
tomorrow.
Patty
Sunshine
wants
mixed
to
with
test
clouds
dial
at
line
times. Partly cloudy again tomorrow
Oh,
night. Lows around
is there,
35.
wait a minute.
Upper
There's still
30s
a
Thursday
soda
and
machine,
Friday,
right?
Here,
with a
Patty,
chance
Patty?
for mixed precipitation Friday.
There's
1
still
to
a
2
soda
inches of
machine?
snow
There
Thursday
is not.
night through
There
Friday.
isn't?
There is
At
not.
your latest
Okay.
Chicago
Can I
weather
order
update.
something?
Right
Sure.
now, it's 42.
Okay. Who?
The
can I order
Al
from?
Sparks radio program.
A lot of
What
times
do you
when you're
want?
seeing
What
on
do
the
you want?
internet, imagine if you will,
Well, a
if
soda.
someone, a
And
neighbor, a stranger,
Vidalia,
could paint
you want
a
pizza or
different view of
something?
the world
There's
on
pizza
all
in
of
the
your
kitchen.
windows
Oh, really?
anytime they
Yeah,
wanted to.
cheese and
And
sausage.
all they had to do was get you to open the drinks. And
And
if you looked out them, you would
cheese,
think that's what the
sausage,
world looks like,
mushroom,
whether
and
it does or
jalapeno.
not.
Oh, that's great. I just want something to drink then.
Okay.
WCPT
I can order across the street, though.
Chicago's progressive
I
talk.
don't feel comfortable with you running across the
It's the
street.
season for cold
You don't have
floors
to
and
feel
high
comfortable
energy,
about it.
and Permaseal can help with that.
Did you just
By
tell me
giving
to shut
50%
up?
off all insulation
Let that
products
top
through
lip
the
gloss
end of
on
Okay,
that
I
bottom?
left a message for my son. Try back.
Wait a minute,
Permaseal
but here,
is the experts
here,
in basement
here.
waterproofing and foundation repair. But did you know that we can also make your basement crawl space warmer and your upstairs living space more comfortable? Our
Vidalia, you want
permanent
something to
foam
drink,
insulation
hon?
products can
Oh,
be
no,
installed in just one day and are
no,
twice
I
as
didn't.
effective
Here,
as
you want
old-fashioned
something to drink?
fiberglass bats. With 44
Vidalia,
years
you don't want
experience
anything to
and
drink?
over
No, I don't.
500,000 Chicago and
My water was
Northwest
somewhere
Indiana
around there.
homeowners served. Permaseal is
Okay.
proud to be the
Thank
oldest, most
you.
experienced, family-owned waterproofing and
Okay.
foundation
Oh, wait a minute.
repair
Here,
company
Matt.
in Chicago. You can count on our team to
Gotta
provide
go
you with the
reboot
peace of
the
mind that
dial line
comes
for
from dry
Patty.
basement,
Okay, sorry.
structurally sound,
What
and
are you
healthy
looking for?
homes. Call Permaseal today to schedule a free evaluation and save 15% off insulation services during the month of February. 800
Hello, Matt.
421 seal or visit
Hi,
permaseal.net.
stand by, okay? We're coming back in 1 minute. Thank you. I have Max.
This is a
Excellent.
national healthcare alert from
I'm
the
calling Gregory
24/7
Hines now.
Diabetic Health
Okay.
Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one has diabetes, listen closely. Now, regardless of your age, if you have insurance, you may qualify to receive diabetic testing supplies with little to no out-of-pocket cost. Get free delivery, free information, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers for free. Call the 24/7 Diabetic Health Hotline now for details. Toll free at this number. But wait, there's more. If you call right now, you could get a meter upgrade. In addition, we'll give you a free pair of diabetic socks as our special gift to you, regardless of your age. If you
Hi, Greg.
suffer with
It's Our
diabetes
Lady with
and have
John.
insurance,
Stand
you
by.
may
We're coming
qualify
back
to
in
get
about a
free
minute and
delivery of
14
your
seconds.
supplies.
Okay?
800-442-0819. 800-442-0819.
I have both
800-442-0819.
Max Beaver and Greg Hines on the
800-442-0819.
standby.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. During the Civil War, 11% of the Confederate Army was made up of enslaved men forced to join. One of these men was Robert Smalls. Smalls was a deckhand on the Confederate supply
I
ship
can.
known
I
as the
could
Plymouth.
drop off.
During his time, Smalls learned as
Well,
much
this
as he
was the
could about
last one.
navigating the ship so he and others could escape. And on May 13th of 1862, while officers were sleeping, Smalls, along with 16 others, took the planter out of the Charleston Harbor, navigating through all 5 checkpoints,
Sorry
heading
about
to
that.
open waters, looking for the Union blockade. Smalls raised a white flag of surrender, letting
Nobody
Union
can use
soldiers board the ship, giving them guns, ammo, and documents about planned Confederate attack. Getting a wealth of information, Smalls was given the role of the Union Navy captain. Stories like Smalls are one of the many factors convincing President Lincoln to allow free African Americans to serve in the Union Army. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
Welcome back to WCPT 820's Election Night Special with Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and Santita Jackson. Brought to you by Fazio Insurance, an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage counties since 1953.
Thanks so much to Santita Jackson for kicking us off. I'm Joan Esposito. Let's get right to the numbers. We have a little over 52% of the vote in. And at this point, I have yet to see Paul Vallis lose the lead. He has about 36% of the vote. His nearest challenger right now is Brandon Johnson with roughly 20%, followed by Lori Lightfoot with about 16% of the vote. Coming in with 14% of the vote at this point in time, it looks like Jesus Chuy Garcia. So kind of what people were expecting. We have Max Bever joining us. He's the Director of Public Information for the Board of Elections. And on this night, as on many nights, he's one of the most popular guys in all of Chicago. Max, thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thanks for the invite.
Okay, lots of questions. How does turnout look? Do you have a feel for that yet? Not just today, overall.
So as of polls closing at 7 p.m. Tonight, all the Election Day results, as well as vote-by-mail ballots that we received as of last night, and all early votes, we are at 507,852 total ballots cast. That puts us at a 32.1% total citywide turnout. Unfortunately, that falls below the maybe overly optimistic numbers that I was hoping for looking at.
I think we were shooting for 40, weren't we?
I sure was. And looking at the way that people were turning out and vote by mail, it was suggesting that, if election days from previous 2019 and 2015 matched, they would be looking for that higher turnout, getting closer to 2011's 42% turnout. Well, what it looks like, and given quite a bit of the sluggish turnout that we saw on election day today, was that bucking the trend of municipal elections, people actually seem to make up their minds much earlier in the process rather than later, and that much more voters chose to vote by mail than they have in previous years. So it didn't end up adding a lot of votes. It is now at least seemed to be shown that a lot more voters just chose to vote by mail this year instead.
I'm not sure the numbers I have are up to the second numbers, but it looks like once again the 18 to 24-year-olds just didn't really come out to vote. Max, what are your numbers?
Unfortunately, it looks like we have just between 18 to 24, just over almost 16,000 ballots cast. Now that's compared to the almost 100,000 ballots cast by people 55 to 64 and 65 to 74. And so for that 18 to 24, looking at my numbers right now, that's just over 3% of the total turnout so far. Now, unfortunately, that's not off base for what we usually see for municipal elections, a much lower youth turnout comparatively to presidential elections, which drive a lot of interest and drive a lot of youth turnout. But that's still a much lower than we'd like to see, and even lower than it might end up being for youth that turned out for 2019.
Wow. I know that you don't know how many ballots were postmarked today or maybe Saturday, but what's your estimate for the number of mail-in ballots that could still arrive?
So as of last night, we already had 112,000 vote-by-mail ballots returned back to the board, and those votes have been counted and will be included in tonight's election results. But that leaves over 100,000 vote-by-mail ballots that are still out there. Now, we do expect that a good majority of those are arriving back today, that people dropped off in drop boxes, or they're arriving back to the USPS.
That have not been
and
returned
then the immediate 3 to 4 days after the election is when we receive tens of thousands more.
99,000 votes
So
still to be
given the
counted
way
after
that
tonight.
After tonight. So
the
that's why.
2022 elections
And Lori Lightfoot
we
said
do
she'll
expect that
challenge
about
if it's
60
within
to
a certain
80,000
margin of
Yeah, well,
error.
votes
Margin of error.
will be
Hold on,
coming
it's
back.
too close. We gotta wait for those
And
mail-in
that
ballots,
will
which
drive
could
our
take 2
turnout
weeks.
up a little bit more. So
That's what
hopefully,
Dr. Starks
a
just
good
said.
percentage of those will
You
come
remember
back,
Dr.
and
Starks,
we
of
get that
course.
32% citywide
So,
turnout
all right, I'll be back.
up to 36 and at least match 2019's turnout.
I know you have to run. One final question. When are we going to know who's in the runoff?
You know, it depends on how close these races are going to be tonight. Given that we've got 507,000 total ballots cast, but 100,000 vote-by-mail ballots that are still out there, if these are razor-thin margins, I have a feeling that the campaigns will probably want to wait until the majority of those vote-by-mail ballots are counted to say more. Now, we at the board, we won't make an official proclamation of results until at least March 15th or 16th. We have until March 14th to accept all properly postmarked vote-by-mail ballots, and we do get quite a few stragglers up until the 14th, as well as provisional ballots that are cast today. We do get a few thousand of those, and those have until the 14th to be counted too. So I think we'll have a clearer picture when at least the vast majority of the vote-by-mail ballots come in and are properly processed and counted, which might take till this weekend.
Oh my!
We will see how close these races are tonight.
Wow, it's going to be exciting, Max. Thank you so much. I know you are very, very busy tonight. Thank you for sharing part of your evening with us. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thank you for the invite.
You're very welcome. Max Bever, Director of Public Information for the Board of Elections. Exciting times. Greg Hines is going to join us now. He wrote his, I think this must have been his final column before the vote today, where he said that he was going to refuse to tell us who he voted for. He said, make up your own mind, but here's what I like and don't like about each of the front runners. Greg Hines joins us now. Greg, you still don't want to tell us who you voted for?
No, I don't, Joan, but I can tell you who Chicago voted for. We're now starting to get some, I think, pretty definitive totals with 75% of the vote now in. It's very clear that Paul Vallis is going to be in the number one spot. He's got 36% of the votes. He's got nobody else is within 60,000 votes of him. The race for second place is a little closer, but Brandon Johnson, the county commissioner, the real progressive in the field, is really starting to open up a lead over Orley Lightfoot. He's up 16,000 votes, almost a 4.5 point margin. There's still a quarter yet to come, and we've got all those mail ballots yet to come in that Max Bever was talking about. That's a pretty significant lead for Johnson over the Lightfoot for second place.
Yeah, and if this trend continues, one of the candidates would almost need to get all 100,000 of those mail-in ballots to move up the way things are.
If this trend continues, we're going to have as stark of a division and a choice as you could ever want.
Yeah.
Is the most conservative guy in the field. He's the law and order candidate. Larry Lightfoot accused him of being a closet Republican. On the other hand, Mr. Johnson is by far and away the most left progressive in the field. He's called for all kinds of new taxes on all kinds of things. He effectively, in the past, has called for defunding police. If that's the final choice, and it's starting to look that way, Chicago's going to have to make a real decision.
Yeah, I liked in this article that you wrote where you excuse me, I'm paraphrasing here, but you pretty much said Chuy Garcia is too nice a guy to make it in this race.
Chuy is a nice guy, but nice guys don't get you very much in politics. Right now, he's running fourth. He ran, in my opinion, a terrible campaign. You can't really say what he was for. He surrounded himself with a bunch of people that I know of and you know of, but people on the board you've never heard of, really, like Pat Quinn and David Orr and whatever. Strange way to campaign. What he was for, what he would do different, just wasn't clear. I mean, he said, I'll unite the city and I'll balance the budget and everything will be great. That's too bland.
While you were just speaking to me, the Associated Press has decided to claim that former public school CEO Paul Vallis has made the April 4th runoff. 75% of the vote in was good enough for them, Mr. Hines. But I don't think that's a huge shock to anybody. Frankly, the big shock right now would be if there was some sort of serious upset and Paul Vallis didn't make it into the runoff. I think you and I both have talked about how we've seen this coming for a while. The question was who was going to be going up against Paul Vallis. And I agree with you. I think Brandon Johnson has really had a lot of momentum here in these last couple of weeks. His campaign really seemed to kind of catch fire. Just as I know, I have to say, well, I think he's like you. I think he's a great guy. I think that Chuy Garcia, the fire that came to Brandon Johnson may have come from Chuy Garcia's campaign, because it was pretty quiet. Things seemed pretty quiet on that end.
Yeah, Joan, I need to look at the totals, but the low turnout might have actually worked for Mr. Johnson's advantage. He has a hardcore supporters. Folks are really believing him, and in low turnout, they're disproportionately carrying along the vote. It's particularly impressive in that younger voters, who I would have thought would have voted heavily for him, didn't turn out. It was last time I looked, the number of people over 65 who voted was something like 6 times the number of people aged 18 to 24. But he still appears to be in the catbird seat in terms of getting into second place. At least it's to be headed that way.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Of all the matchups you could have put together from this list of 9 people, I think the city of Chicago has picked one from the far right and one from the far left, and let it begin. I think it's going to be pretty clear cut. I talked to so many people.
It's gonna be war. Duck your head. It could be racial. It's certainly
going to be all of that.
It's going to be tax policy. It's going to be a public safety policy. Very clear differences.
Absolutely, very clear differences. It's going to be wild, and I'm glad that you're going to be with me every step of the way over the next few weeks, Mr. Hines.
Absolutely, man. August will be an interesting spring.
Thank you. I know you've got to run. Thank you for being with us this evening. I appreciate your time and your insight, Mr. Hines.
You too, John. Bye-bye.
Bye. That's Greg Hines from Crane Chicago Business. The article that he published yesterday was pretty much kind of what you and I, the audience, have been talking about for weeks now. The upsides and the downsides of each of the candidates. I mean, there were some real progressive candidates that ran for mayor of New York City, and yet it was a very conservative Democrat, Eric Adams, who won because people were worried about crime. The $1,000 question is that going to be the mindset for the people of Chicago? People have, in addition to Greg Hines, who of course writes for and about the business community, they've been very concerned with a number of the taxes that Brandon Johnson has said that he wants to levy. But I've talked to other people who, Brandon Johnson, he is a Cook County commissioner, but he was also on the payroll for the Chicago Teachers Union up until recently.
So
Some people are concerned about that.
Let me know when
what does that mean the next time there is a teacher's contract to be negotiated, that essentially the teachers union is going to be on both sides of the table?
I haven't had it yet.
See, but Brandon Johnson has been.
I believe it. My stomach's a little upset right now.
Despite his call for a bevy of new taxes.
Let me know when you're ready so you can.
But come on in.
We have 75. Nope. Now 84. Just updated numbers.
What?
84.
I'm right here.
0.12%.
No, because I'm on StreamYard. So you want to get on right here? So you can be seen. It doesn't bother me.
We got a camera here.
My stomach is like bothering me. So I think I'm gonna have to.
Percent of all the votes cast so far. The nearest competitor is Brandon Johnson with a little over 20%, followed by Mayor Lori Lightfoot with 16%. I spoke to the mayor earlier this afternoon, and she was still campaigning. Well, I've been here, I've been there. As soon as I hang up with you, I'm going here, I'm going there, and which is why I would have counted her out. She lost not only her detractors, but she lost a lot of her supporters. Tom Tunney, who was her head of the zoning committee in city council, bailed and thought about running against her. Susan Sedlowski Garza, who was one of her biggest supporters, broke with the mayor, said that she just wasn't going to work with her anymore. And yes, there was COVID, and that certainly threw a monkey wrench into the works. But it did seem in the eyes of a lot of people that Lori Lightfoot just kind of got in her own way. You know, there were times when maybe she should have been building bridges instead of burning them down. And it
Oh,
looks
I was trying
like
to find my thing. Thank you.
unless things radically changed, and I've been watching these numbers since it was only 32% reporting.
You can see why it's so broken.
And while the actual numbers
got
and
my
percentages
phone.
have shifted
I was trying to find my wallet to get my.
the standing has not.
I have two. That's
Since
the
I
problem. When you have
first
two, you're
started
careless,
watching these
right? Because you're like,
numbers,
oh, I have another.
as soon
That's
as the
stupid.
polls closed,
It
this
is
is the way. This is the way it's shaped.
Very
up.
excited. I was
Paul
racing to get
Vallis,
back.
Clearly in the lead. And the
How
big
much?
question
79?
was in most people's mind, would it be Brandon Johnson, Lori Lightfoot, or Chewy Garcia, who he's going to go up against?
I'm sorry.
Unless a lot of those 100,000 mail-in ballots that haven't been looked at yet, unless a lot of those, most of those, many of those are going to Lori Lightfoot. It looks like Brandon Johnson, quite possibly, has pulled this out of the fire. The way we're going to do things tonight for election night is, yes, we are three hosts, but we are also kind of rotating. But because Matt Cummings back at the station loves the kinds of energy that happens when the hosts talk to one another, Patty Vasquez was generous enough to offer to sit down and chat with me in the last few minutes of my half hour before she begins her half hour. And I know, Patty, have you spent the day like you do most election days, running all around, talking to voters, visiting as many precincts as you possibly can?
I am such a geek. I think dork is probably. I love this so much. Yes, I was out today. I was campaigning for friends of mine. I don't know that I've been as familiar with so many candidates in my entire life. It's very exciting. I know that some of my friends I'll be consoling, some of them I'll be congratulating and celebrating with them. I celebrate everyone that runs. I know that it's easy to be cynical about elections, but people who take on the challenge and step into the arena and say, I want to lead my community, when you do it for the right reasons and you do it the right way, it's spectacular. I love this so much. Yes, I just came from one of the election night parties where they're waiting for results, and it's close for the second place in the 45th ward. So we're watching those results. I'm watching the police boards. It's exciting to see the returns on the mayoral race. I felt this today when I was at the polling places. I never heard so many people saying that they believed Vallis might win this outright. This is the first time I ever heard anyone with that kind of spectacular proposition that he might win this tonight, because it's a mathematical impossibility as far as I'm concerned. Yes. Right. Right. Yeah. It's remarkable. I'm very amped, I think is the best way to put it tonight. And watching these returns, there's a bunch of races I'm keeping my eye on. I had regular conversations with friends of mine who are invested in the 41st ward. It does look as though Alderman Napolitano will hold on to that seat. Some races are a little bit closer. Not by a lot, but the 25th ward, Aida Flores, who had challenged Alderman Sichko Lopez. It's within about 7 points. At this point, with this many returns, it's going to be tough to close that gap. But what races, what besides the aldermanic races, I know you talked to a lot of candidates. Are there any that you've kept your eye on? I know you talked to some of the 45th ward candidates as well. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Our good friend Roosevelt, Lee says Roosevelt is calling in, and I think he's going to tell us how he voted.
Oh.
Roosevelt, are you there? It's me and Patty Vasquez.
Hey, Roosevelt. Yay. Mm-hmm. I was surprised. Someone was talking about. Well, no, I mean, I was thinking about today. One of my callers was asking about, maybe it is voter fatigue and the timing of it in February. I mean, a lot of kids, whether it's in college or, seniors in high school and things like that. I don't know what it would take for. It's not. I hate to say the word juicy. That sounds wrong, but I mean it's not as spectacular as the national landscape of following someone like AOC or Bernie or having to try to fight against someone like Trump. It's not the same thing. I think that energizes them, maybe.
Well, we have a great election show coming up for you. Patty Vasquez is going to be holding down the fort for the next 30 minutes. And then Santita and I will be back at some point. We'll figure that all out. But let's take a break, and when we come back, Patty Vasquez continues the WCPT election night coverage.
Woohoo!
This is a WCPT.
I'm going to go to the bathroom. Is my microphone off? I said that really loudly.
That's Secretary of State Antony Blinken addressing the UN Security Council on the one-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Blinken called for a just and durable peace, asserting that any peace that legitimizes Russia's seizure of land will send a message to would-be aggressors everywhere
that they can invade countries and get away with it. And members of this council should not fall into the false equivalency of calling on both sides to stop fighting. In this war, there is an aggressor and there is a victim. Russia fights for conquest. Ukraine fights for its freedom. If Russia stops fighting and leaves Ukraine, the war ends. If Ukraine stops fighting, Ukraine ends. The fact remains, one man, Vladimir Putin, started this war. One man can end it.
For WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal, I'm Andy Miles.
I just learned Discover cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. Seriously, though. See terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas.
Maybe.
Winter weather flash
Yes.
in California.
I'm going to shut off my timeline and my mic, but if anybody needs me, I will. I'm sitting right here at my desk, and I will be watching my text.
Okay, perfect.
Power
outages.
Branches don't all fall right at the same time.
Brian Stowe with DTE Energy.
Weakened trees break and fall. So that's what we've seen here.
The Supreme Court has heard arguments over President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan.
The High Court's conservatives appear skeptical of the administration's right to use the COVID-19 emergency to broadly cancel debt. From Chief Justice John Roberts.
Most casual observers would say if you're going to give up that much amount of money, if you're going to affect the obligations of that many Americans,
if you do Bobby Rush, just do it really quick.
Yeah.
It's really hard to understand anymore.
Yeah.
Especially on the phone.
Yes.
Yeah. Pay respect. Because if you want to contribute, we want to hear it.
Right.
But not that long.
Right. That's why I said that not even 15 about.
Yeah.
Did you bring soda for everybody?
You know what?
I
If I'd known you were coming back.
I'm teasing. I didn't know I was coming back. The equipment didn't work. I just couldn't get it.
The wireless unit did not get a good signal.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
That's the first time we've had that.
It was just saying unavailable.
Patty Jerry Riles might have Bobby Rush for you about 820. Is that okay?
So we're doing
because you got Pat Quinn and you got
Tony Fitzpatrick. Yeah, so let's do 10 with Quinn, 10 with Tony, and then the rest with Bobby Rush.
Yeah,
is that what you want to do?
Yeah,
okay.
we can do them quick because
TikTok is being banned
Sounds
on
good.
government phones and beyond. Human Hall has
All right.
Woo.
You guys.
I'll do that. Okay. Stomach. If you need me to take over, let me know.
I promise you I will. Just gotta. Okay. Let's deal with a lot with this stomach.
Yep.
I did take it 20 extra pounds off. Whew. That's fine with me.
I think I found that. I gained the pounds, 20 extra pounds.
Didn't I thought you look like you lost weight? No. Well, I've lost since I've seen you. I've lost 40.
Oh, nice. You look good. That's what I'm saying. You look great.
I know,
China
but
says the
wow.
ban reflects Washington's own insecurities and our abuse of
First
state
20.
power.
I
Foreign
was
Ministry saying
good
the US should
because I
provide
was losing it.
non-discriminatory
You know, I
environment
just
for foreign
kind
companies.
of cut some things
I'm
out.
Ben Thomas, AP
The
News.
second, I just
Joan
went boom
Esposito, live,
and
local, and
boom.
progressive on WCPT Willow
And it
Springs
has
is
been-
powered by ComEd. See how ComEd is
I just
preparing
called
for
the
a clean
devil
energy
trying to.
future. ComEd.com/clean energy.
Let's say I've almost moved into Northwestern
Fear of
Hospital.
missing out.
Oh,
Listen
my
to
stomach
Patty
stuff. Yeah,
Vasquez on the
that's good.
drive home to catch up on the day.
I catch up on the day as I drive home.
Driving it home with Patty Vasquez.
Since we have so
Right,
much
right.
to talk about every day.
Driving it home with Patty
Yeah,
Vasquez.
I'm good.
5 to 7 on WCPT
Okay.
820.
It is still the Patty
I'll
Vasquez
do
Show.
that.
This is an important announcement for anyone who wants health insurance, even if you missed the deadline. Right now, you
You're
can
on
get the
StreamYard,
health
yeah.
insurance you and your
Oh, so when
family
I
need
go
from top
to at
insurance
8:30,
providers.
you mean we
Even
go
if
there?
you have
Okay.
pre-existing conditions or no
Oh.
insurance at all.
Hey,
The Plus
everybody.
Benefits Health Insurance toll-free
Hi,
number
this
has
is
been
Hey, everybody.
Patty Vasquez.
We're in between hosts, and here's Santita.
Say hello. She is fabulous.
Stay tuned.
5 to 7 every day.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Do you want me to go in front of that one or no?
So when you're on,
All right. Here, do this.
do that.
Do you guys want to watch me yammer?
Yes.
So here, do this. All right.
And
Hi,
let
everybody.
them know what time you're on.
Okay.
It's publicity.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm the host weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Santita has asked me to turn it this way so you can see what's going on. We're very excited. I don't know how you guys, I'm a complete geek for Election Day. And I was out campaigning for a lot of folks that I know that were running for office. So we're about to talk to Governor Quinn So if you're listening on WCPT 820, former Governor Quinn's going to join us, and Tony Fitzpatrick, the artist, performer, writer, he's going to be on with us. And then Bobby Rush joins us at almost 8:30 or so. So that's what's coming up in the next 30 minutes. I can't see. Is Brandon still number 2? Yes, Brandon is still number 2. Let me see what the results look like. Whew, it's hot in here, everybody. Let's see. Stand by. Now I have to worry about how I look in front of you guys.
Hello?
I will pull these up. If you go to Chicago Tribune's website, they also have a pretty good rundown of where we are. Brandon Johnson is in second place with 20.3% of the vote, 84% of precincts reporting.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Oh,
Not
all right.
I just found out Congressman Bobby Rush got to go now. If it's possible, he can come on now.
What do we know if Quinn wants to go later? I don't.
He can't do it at 8:20. He wanted to do it now.
Yeah, Quinn did, or
no.
What about Quinn? We won't wait to worry about his Quinn.
Oh yeah, Quinn is on. He's on hold now.
Do you want me to talk to both of them, or do you want to ask Quinn if he wants to come? If we want.
No. Keep Quinn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Keep
Quinn.
Tell
me we have another guest scheduled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Learn how at number story.
No, there's the one around the corner is how much time do I have? The one that's down around to the left. The one like to the left before Matt's office. It's better. It's bigger. Yeah. Does it say men's on that room?
Yeah. No, it's same gender.
Oh, okay.
Since 1953, the Fazio Insurance team has been trusted by the community to offer unparalleled service and competitive quotes to clients from the state of Illinois. For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or check them out on their website, FazioInsurance.com.
We are back with election night coverage here at WCPT. Joining us on the line right now is former Governor Quinn. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. It's quite an energized evening. What are your thoughts as you watch these returns come in, sir?
Brandon Johnson is going to be number 2, so that'll be a very spirited contest for April 4th. And then all the good races for aldermen all across Chicago. So there'll be a lot of activity between now and 6 weeks from now and April 4th comes around.
On a night like tonight, and you're no stranger to election night results. What's going through your mind as we think about voter turnout? As you mentioned, it's amazing how fast these results are coming in. I agree. It seems swift, but what are some of the emotions that you're feeling on election night?
Well, the candidate who's won elections and lost elections is a lot easier to win. When the numbers come in and they don't go your way, it is sort of a disappointing feeling, but this is what democracy is all about. People getting in the arena, campaigning, working as hard as they can. I really salute all 9 candidates who ran for mayor. It's a very arduous, demanding campaign. And when it's over, it's over. And life it does go on, even if you lose an election. I know I lost for governor, and I said the next day, one day a peacock, the next day a feather duster. There are other things you can do with your life, and I would urge all the candidates who ran for mayor, if they have an elected office, they can always go back to that. But even if they don't, they can volunteer and participate in other good things to help our city. We have to band together.
Yes.
I really hope Paul Vallis and Brandon Johnson understand that this campaign where they'll be running for mayor for 6 weeks. You don't want to have such a divisive situation where you can't put things together again after April 4th.
You bring up something interesting, and I have only lost a race, so I don't know the victorious side of it. But that is something that, when you run, it is, decide what it is that you have in mind. Is it to serve people or is it to have power? And if it's to serve people, then you do find a way to contribute, whether it's campaigning for other candidates that you believe in or doing the work that you set out to do in the first place. I do think that there's something to gracious winners as well, don't you think? Of whether it's Abraham Lincoln's sort of philosophy of bring in his his challengers and his band of rivals, right? I think there's some. Yep.
Both Brandon and Pavel to really look at the talent of the folks who did run for mayor and came up a little short. Chuy Garcia will be going back to Congress, and he's a very, very strong person. He's going to help our city. I supported Chuy. I've known him 40 years. I was there in 1983 and 87 when Harold Washington ran for mayor, and it's really important that we make sure that we do what Harold Washington after the election, try and build a kind of a rainbow coalition, bring people from all walks of life and neighborhoods and races together for the good of Chicago and the people of Chicago.
I agree. I think it's an important thing to keep in mind is again why you ran in the first place. As you mentioned, we have a lot of aldermanic races across the city. Are there any in particular that you're watching that are surprising you or that you have interest in?
Well, I supported Joe Dunn, who ran in the 48th ward. I see that he's going to be in the runoff. I think that ward they had like 10 candidates, and 46th ward also had a lot of candidates. So there'll be some very spirited runoffs. In the first ward, David Royko, son of Mike Royko, and I think it's helpful for every ward when they have a competition. People can kind of pin the alderman down, or candidates for alderman, and find out, where their positions are and all kinds of issues. And with 6 more weeks, there'll be plenty of time to pin them down. It'll be fun watching.
Yeah, and it is. We are seeing some runoffs across the city. Daniel La Zapata, with 85% reporting, is facing a runoff. Nicole Lee, who was appointed in the 11th ward, is trailing Anthony Severino. I'm probably getting all these names wrong. Vino at 31.5 to 31.3. And in the 12th, appointed Annabelle Abarca is facing a loss tonight to Julia Ramirez at 56.4 to 43.6. Yeah, these are a lot of interesting races. And some... Yes.
And I think he was ahead by a couple hundred votes. So, and there was only 2 candidates. So whoever gets the most tonight
wins. Yep. Currently, he's ahead by almost about 450 votes against Aida Flores. He's got 53.4% of the votes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are. Yep.
Philadelphia, Houston, all these big cities. Voters, when they want an ordinance passed, they can gather signatures on a petition and then pass the ordinance by referendum. We don't have that in Chicago, and I was the sponsor of the Chicago Voter Initiative, so I was happy to see that he's ahead there, and we need to give voters more opportunity to vote, not just on candidates like tonight, but be able to vote for issues. In Pittsburgh, for example, they reformed the whole no-knock warrant situation in their city.
Hi, Tony. It's Lady B with Patty. How are you? Right. Stand by. She's still talking to that quick. Okay?
And it passed with 80%. So we can do that in Chicago. We just have to empower voters.
Okay, thank you.
Let the council have everything.
Yeah, it is. I was talking earlier today. And Santita, who came into the station, I was young when Harold Washington was in office. I did not realize why we are a nonpartisan or non-declared party for these races. That's fascinating to me, and I don't know that anyone has any will to change it. But I think in having no primaries, having a February election has a lot to do with voter turnout today as well. And we're seeing really low numbers amongst young voters. What are your thoughts in that regards?
Yeah, I saw the same thing. more often than that day than bouncing out. And the guy next to me said, "How old are you? When are you in your 40s or your 50s?" And actually, a little older than that. I'm 73, 74. Anyhow, bottom line is, older people are voting more, and we've got to make sure that younger people who really have a stake in the future of our city and our state and our country understand what democracy is all about. Remember when Trump got elected, we were all very unhappy, and I remember participating in all kinds of walks and marches, and we would march along and say, "This is what democracy looks like." And you've got to understand that vote is the ultimate act of democracy.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a contrast between the participation of young voters at the national level and as opposed to what we're seeing today. And we've got to find a way to, as you mentioned, to get them involved and to see how their votes matter, because you're more likely to be impacted by your alderman or your mayor or even your police council. I don't know if you've had any thoughts on that new. What? Yeah. What? Yep.
I voted for 3 people. I hope they win. I haven't seen those results yet. But I think your point is very well taken. If we're going to re-elect Joe Biden as Democrats, we've got to make sure everybody's in and nobody's left out. And that means reaching out to people of different ages, different neighborhoods, definitely different races. We've got to, build our minorities. I know when I was governor, we wanted to pass marriage equality. But we didn't have the votes, so we kept working at it, organizing, and finally one day we got the majority passed in the House, and I signed it into law. And, sometimes important victories take hard work and hard organizing, and that's a lesson we can all take every day.
Which police board did you say? What district are you in?
I'm in 25.
In 25. So let me take a quick look for you. Angelica Green with 27.8%, Sal Arellano at 25.6%, and Jacob Arena at 20.2% currently, with 90% of precincts reporting.
I voted for all 3. I'm glad they won.
There you go. One of the things. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
I think the good thing about that office is, it's maybe the first time somebody can run for office, get in the arena. We're going to have next year, don't forget, the opportunity to elect the school board in Chicago. And those will be, I think, races where a lot of people will come and file petitions and run for office. It's very helpful. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It's something that we got to get everybody paying attention to. That's what our country stands for: democracy, government of the people. And that's also why I believe in the initiative and referendum process, where the elected officials maybe aren't getting the job done quick enough.
Jerry?
We can go around them and put the referendum.
Yes. Stand by, okay? Okay, stand by.
I'm going to work on that.
Stand by.
Tax reform and relief this coming
No,
year.
stand by. You'll hear when she introduces him. Hold on.
Well, I look forward to having those conversations with you, sir. Before we go, one more thing. You were talking about how democracy is a participation sport. I've been telling folks it's not just about coming out and voting. It's about making sure that your electeds know that your story is important. I've got to run, and I want to continue this conversation whenever your schedule would allow. I appreciate your time this evening and your insight, and I wish you a wonderful evening. What was that? Hey, come on in studio sometime. All right, we're over here on the northwest side. Come over by us. All right, take care. See you soon, sir. Take care. We are gonna check in to another important voice in our community. We're gonna talk to Congressman Bobby Rush. Is on the line with us right now. Let me take care of this one. Wait, why won't I can't take this one. Lady B, my phone over here won't let me discharge the governor. No buttons will see. Nope, I can't get to all right, can we call him back?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna call Congressman Bobby Rush right now. The button was stuck on there. Let me I'm gonna tell Tony Fitzpatrick that we're not, but I can't put this live either. All right, you have to do it for me. You did, didn't you? Hold on. Congressman Bobby Rush on the line with us. Thank you for your patience and joining us. What are your thoughts as we watch the election results come in? Yes, sir.
Manny, I got to tell you, this is Jerry Wiles at the
Oh.
Lightfoot campaign headquarters in the Mid-American Republican Council on Area 8, and it's a packed out here. People are coming in and chatting, and everything really, really good. But I do have the Congressman Monty Rush at hand, ready to talk to me more about the organized election.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jerry. Hello, Congressman Bobby Rush joins us. Thank you for your time, sir. What are you seeing in the room? What are you feeling as we watch the election results come in tonight? I think that he absolutely had a lot of wind at his back, and I was sensing that as I was out at campaigning places. A lot of I heard one woman say this: "Paul will save us all," and there was like that kind of energy that I was hearing from folks. What will it take to challenge that kind of energy as we head into the runoff? Mm. Well, I know it's going to be a lot of work as we head into this runoff, and we look forward to continuing these conversations with you, sir. I know that there's a lot going on there, and I want to make sure that you have a lovely evening, and we look forward to connecting with you again, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. As Congressman Bobby Rush, we're going to turn to Tony Fitzpatrick, who always has something to say about what's going on in Chicago. Tony, what are you thinking as you watch these returns? Yeah. Why? One of the things that occurred to me today, because as I mentioned, I was out campaigning for some of my local electeds, and I'm obviously campaigning for progressives. there's going to be a lot of split energy with so many runoffs in aldermanic races too. So I'm hoping that we can consolidate that energy, that all that power to do both, to both accomplish electing more progressives in aldermanic seats and, as you said, the other goal. I'm trying to be unbiased about how I feel about the runoff between Vallis and Johnson, but I might start to interview Paul Vallis. Never. That would be a never, I believe.
I'm not a fan of Paul Vallis. He seems to be a professional candidate for whatever job is open. In my opinion, he has failed up for his whole career. If you talk to any teacher who was in Chicago when that Chicago public schools, they don't have anything to say about it. And what I like about Brandon Johnson is he dedicated his life to education, and I've always thought that is the silver bullet for this city. That educated people have choices. Educated people stand much better chances in getting productive jobs and serving their community. It all starts with the schools, Patty.
I agree, and I have look. I'm a product of Chicago Public Schools. Both my boys are, and it is something that we have to continue this fight. Again, I don't want to get into the weeds about how I feel about Paul Vallis. So, yeah, but some over a coffee at some point. Would love to share my thoughts. Yes. Well. I think hopefully my son is listening and is cheering in his dorm room. During this campaign, he was actually blocked by Jamal Green because my son tweeted out that the only people that were happy that Jamal Green was in the race was Paul Vallis. Just...
I respect the activists. We are stuck without them.
I agree.
There's such a thing as a useful political agitator and a productive political agitator. And the very beginning, that's what the Reverend Jesse Jackson was. He was a productive and useful political agitator. And he registered more people to vote in Chicago than anyone in the history of the city.
Wow. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't think Jamal is there yet. All I heard him do is, try to torpedo other candidates. I mean, the thing is that this campaign, when everybody started announcing and throwing their hat in the ring, Patty, I wanted to get in the ring and throw all the hats back.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
This is a whole Larry Curly election, but I like Brandon Johnson because it's about education, and it's also about holding the police to task for the wrongdoing that's been done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know Vallis is running on law and order, and that's a very safe, dog whistle thing for white people. But what about when the police misbehave? It's not any accident that that woman Annette who was humiliated by the police, won a big settlement from the Chicago police. It's earlier this quarter.
Mm-hmm.
We stand with people who don't have a voice, and that's why I'm voting for him.
Well, with 89% of precincts reporting, Paul Vallis, as we've already mentioned, has been declared the candidate that will make it to the runoff with 35%. Brandon Johnson is currently at 20.3, Lori Lightfoot at 16.4, and Jesus Garcia, Chuy Garcia at 13.8. Before I let you, this is, huh? And I believe Sophia King, Cam Buckner, and Jamal Green have all conceded. Willie Wilson is incoming probably soon, and Sawyer's recording his now. Before we let you go, did you have any skin in any of the aldermanic races? I don't know which word. I'm not sure which ward. I can scroll if you know the ward. I'm scrolling quickly looking for Reyes. It looks right now as though there might be a runoff, but Alderman Jim Gardner has about 48.7% so far to Megan Mathias's 15.7%. That's with, I believe, also with about 90% of precincts. Nicholas Sposato in 38th Ward looks like he will be winning again with 56.3. We have kind of the triumvirate of first responders here on the northwest side. We've got Sposato, Napolitano, and yeah, they're all firemen. I think Napolitano was also a cop. Napolitano has handily won his race. It looks like Sposato will as well. Gardner might be in a runoff. So it's interesting. He had a lot of somethings, including a ward soup who was selling guns from his basement while on city time. But that's a story for another time. Welcome to the Northwest side. Let's call it that. Let's call it fun. Hijinks, malarkey, shenanigans. I've got to. Tony, let's not take so long to talk again. I'd love to have you on soon, and I'm so grateful for your time. Take care. Thank you so much. Let's take a break here. Our election night coverage continues. If we take a break, we're on till 10. Me, Santita Jackson, and Jonas Esposito. This is Patty Vasquez. Thank you.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, meteorologist forecast tonight with scattered rain showers.
How do you feel? You ready to go?
Honey.
Easterly winds,
Honey.
15 miles an hour.
You ready?
Highs approaching 57 tomorrow.
Cold.
But you've got a lot of audio.
Cloudy again.
You got a lot of concession speeches we can run now too.
Oh no!
Oh, you good?
No. I just brought my stuff over because no, honey. I came there.
Friday.
Dahlia will tell you. I'm in.
You're in. All right.
I might not feel great.
You look great, so I don't know if that's. We're not doing the Fernando Lamas. It's better to feel great. Look great than to feel great.
Reduce your speed.
Change lanes because that's how I feel. I mean, because I never get. I'll be in the hospital with pneumonia
before you,
and I look great.
Slow down.
And my mother is like,
I feel great. I've been at the polling places all day. I'm wind blown.
No, honey, I was like, just come in. I love Fabia.
We got 1 minute.
All right, I'll be back.
Okay. I'm just gonna put on my coat though. Only because I'm cold.
All right, I'm gonna go back. I'll be back.
Okay.
And we got Scott in the last. So whatever. We'll figure out how to get back. That was fun.
Yes.
Basically, that's Quinn with a snore, but I like him.
Yes. I didn't know he was sick.
Am I bringing him anymore?
At 8:45. Alderwoman.
Am I taking
former
or something?
You have Alderwoman, former Alderwoman, Amia Hawar. Thank you.
You're not leaving, are you?
I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
My candidate's got she's losing, so I'm gonna go give her a hug. Yeah, she's not gonna make it.
She's gonna.
Oh, wait, you won't be here. Oh, we'll get some rest.
Running. At least I did my run sheet.
Yep.
Learn more at
Give my board up.
samhsa.gov/support.
Give my board up.
Oh no, I don't. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Dallas will be speaking soon.
Oh, really?
Welcome back to WCPT 820's election.
Okay, so we need to go to him, right? Is he coming in like right now?
You're on A or B? I got A.
Hey, everybody, we're back. Woo. Okay, so who am I going to?
Nobody yet. Okay.
So am I just talking?
Yeah, you're talking.
Woo! Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's okay. It's live radio. I'm so glad to be back in here with Vidalia. This is Santita Jackson. Of course, you can catch me tomorrow morning at, I was about to say at 9 a.m. No. It's 6 a.m. from 6 to 8. Remember those days, Vidalia? What'd you say? So glad I'm remembering them and not doing them. Yes. Hey, everybody. Boy, has this been an exciting evening. The race has already been called. At least the plurality of the votes belong to Paul Vallis. And it appears that Brandon Johnson is holding on to his lead, a little more than 20%. Mayor Lightfoot has 16%, but there are 99,000 votes that are outstanding, mail-in votes. So we really will not know what's going to happen for another couple of weeks. We're going to see, but I want you to call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. One of the surprising aspects of this election tonight has been the fact that we were expecting, I think, Vidalia, a huge turnout of youth vote. That did not happen. But one of the things, I think we have to go back a little bit, and this is where I think some of the things that I've lived come in handy. These insurgent candidates don't just pop up. They are people who have been embedded in the community, they've been working in the community, and they do it all day, every day, all the time. The thing is, I think that the gentleman who was just on was actually partly right about Reverend Jackson. Reverend Jesse Jackson has registered more people to vote, not just in Chicago, but he's registered more Americans to vote than anyone in the history of the Republic. Did you know that, Vidalia? No one has registered more Americans to vote than Reverend Jesse Jackson. But this is something that he does all day, every day. It's very, very difficult to, and well nigh impossible, to get people very excited to just about one particular period of election, one election season. That's just not how it works. You have to keep people engaged all the time. And so we're going to see what's going to happen with this election. It turns out that Mayor Lightfoot said that if we're within the margin of error, she is going to ask for a recount. That's fair. So we fully will not know what has happened with this election for another couple of weeks. I mean, that's really it. There will be a runoff, but who will be facing Paul Vallis? We don't know. So we're going to see. And so I want you to call me at 773-763-9278 and let me know who you really think is going to win. And I have someone, you know what, Vidalia? You know who's responsible for me being at this station? This man who you brought on right now. George Bliss, lovingly known as Cousin George to all of us. I don't care what your background is. He's everybody's cousin. How are you, George Bliss? Where are you tonight? Oh, I know you must be happy.
Per Andy Mills' instructions, it's absolutely chaos here in the Fulton district. Traffic all the way out to State Street, and everybody's asking here. I must be very clear about AP. Has already called it for Mr. Vallis. It looks like Brandon in second. So here we are. All I want this is where we go. Santita, I'm talking to the FOP guys, and of course there's really, and teachers are here as well. So, teachers versus policemen, I would never say that, but those two unions are supporting each other's candidate. This should be interesting when it comes down to the next election.
Everything's going to be interesting because you can't call it. You really, really, really can't call it. So what is the strategy for the Vallis campaign going forward?
They're obviously going to spend some more money on TV ads. They found the last time they ran, and I was involved, in 2019, they did not have a lot of money and very little TV coverage. Quite frankly, he was on AM stations and FM stations, and as you know, he was trounced by Lori and his technical. But this time, the money came from a number of benefactors. Some are here tonight. These are people with extreme money. I've always been against people, billionaires, running our country, but it is what it is. And I have talked about this. So some very heavy contributors here tonight, and I'm pretty sure that the television ad campaign will get more intense starting tomorrow.
More intense. What does that mean? Some people have accused uh, Paul Vallis of playing dog whistle politics. With Law and Order, with his lack of support for critical race theory. Do you expect him to do a pivot? And people in campaigns do pivot. Because you're trying to draw more people in. You're not trying to lose anybody, but you are trying to draw people in.
I am no predictor, but since he has won tonight, pretty much ahead, I don't see why he wouldn't pivot. I am not a consultant reporting, but you've taught me a lot. Yes, pivoting would be important. You need to address the situations where people are not going to agree with them. So, we're sure going to see very quickly. But again, I'm really certain, Santita, that he will be spending further dollars on television ads that have been successful this year for him.
We're talking with George Bliss. George Bliss, who is at the Vallis headquarters, he says they are jubilant. They are excited. He has won convincingly. He is a proud member of the Greek American community. What does his win mean to people?
Well, I don't have my history book in front of me, but I don't think there's ever been a Greek American mayor of Chicago, which is back a couple hundred years. There's been a few here and there. Never a president of the United States. But it's a small community. We only have about 3% of the total population of the greater Chicago area that includes suburban areas. So 3% of roughly 11 million, what is it, 300,000, something like that. It's a very small community, but very tight. I myself, growing up in the church, knew most of the other churches from the north side to the south side. I see a lot of my friends here tonight. Counts, many people are contributing, but you need much, much more than that. You need power,
Lady B
all of the
with
citizens of the city.
Santita
I mentioned
Jackson
today to Joan,
for the interview.
77 neighborhoods. Just think about
You want
it.
to stand by?
Each neighborhood about 16,000 people. 15,000 aldermen. People per ward. Now, 50 aldermen have to decide what they're going to do. And you see up on the
Paul, stay right there. I think is Mr. Vallis coming up now? Lightfoot. Lori Lightfoot's coming up. Okay, stay right there, George. Bliss. Everybody, stay tuned for Mayor Lori Lightfoot. She is speaking now. Okay, we're going to get her up very, very shortly because, well, what? I'm sure she has got to be completely taken aback, if you will, by this loss. Unbelievable. Here she comes.
And believe that you can love who you want to love and do what you want to do and be who you want to be. You will not be defined by how you fall. You will be defined by how hard you work and how much you do good for other people. Obviously, we didn't win the election today, but I stand here with my head held high and a heart full of gratitude. I am grateful to the millions of Chicagoans who came together as we made tough decisions, saw the struggles of our frontline workers, and beat back a deadly pandemic. I'm grateful that we worked together to remove a record number of guns off our streets, reduce homicides, and started making real progress on public safety. I'm grateful that we were able to connect youth to mental health services, housing, education, job training, and legal services. I'm extraordinarily proud that we made investments in communities that have been neglected for decades with Invest Southwest. And putting over $2.2 billion into communities in our neighborhoods. That commitment simply must continue. And I'm proud of the fact that we will deliver on the city's largest ever investment in affordable housing. And to achieve record investments in our public schools, adding school social workers, nurses, and special education case managers. And you better believe I am grateful that we took on the machine and entrenched forces that held this city back for far too long. And regardless of tonight's outcome, we fought the right fights and we put this city on a better path. No doubt about it. Now, as we all know in life, in the end, you don't always win every battle, but you never regret taking on the powerful and bringing in the light. To my friends across the country and my fellow mayors, never fear being brave and bold. I have always believed that when a door closes, another one opens, and so it will be for me and Amy and Viv.
Hey, everybody. Santita Jackson here on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. It's been election day in Chicago. Indeed, it's been the election season since January 26th. January 26th until yesterday, 244,000 people voted. And they voted for change. They voted on crime, but they voted on schools. They voted on getting more public schools. They voted on fair housing, affordable housing. They voted on, oh my goodness, on so many issues, many issues that we did not discuss because the corporate media shaped the narrative that the candidates ended up running on, crime. But the fact is, when you close more than 50 public schools, you are feeding crime. You have robbed people of their jobs, principals, vice principals, teachers' assistants, people who work to keep the school clean, the people who serve the food. That's an entire ecosystem that was wiped out all over the city. All over the city. Most Americans who work in the city cannot afford to rent an apartment in the city in which they work. That's the breeding ground for crime. You see today, what went before the Supreme Court was a reduction in student loan debt, $430 billion that would have been wiped off the books. These banks can afford it. But guess what? You have the most corporate favoring Supreme Court in the history of the Republic. So, if the conservative justices have their way, there will be no relief for you. And you and you and you who have student loan debt. We can just keep on going down the list. You can't go to the emergency room because you don't have $400. You don't have $1,000. You have no cushion. If you lived in East Palestine, Ohio, you if they gave you an emergency evacuation order, where could you go? Most people don't have the money to go anywhere. Need to be affluent to be able to pick up and move. So think about this. This is what's on the table when people are voting. So we were happy to hear that absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, all of that added up to more than 244,000 votes. We're concerned that in-person voting was sluggish, but we're still in the pandemic. So a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, I am not going to go into what could be a crowded place. I'm not going to do that. So you've got to understand that we still don't know who won because 99,000 votes are outstanding. 99,000. So I want you to call me at 773 763 9278. 773 763 9278. George Bliss is still with us. But you know what? We are so excited to have Amaya Pawar, former alderperson from the 47th Ward. How are you today? Tonight, excuse me. You know, I've been going since 2 o'clock this morning. I'm going to have you on my radio show. I'm up at 2 in the morning and I'm on the air at 6. But we have some calls coming in 773 763 WCPT 773 763 9278. What do you make of tonight?
I think many people saw this coming from early.
Election night.
Getting was getting increasingly difficult. And the question really was, I think most people's minds was, who is going to be the number two taking on Paul Allen? Brandon Johnson, or is it going to be Chewy Garcia? And could Mayor Lightfoot kind of sneak in? But I don't think tonight's surprising.
What do you think that crime drove this campaign, or was it so many things? I'm asking that question because it appears that what's in the zeitgeist has changed. I mean, even people wanted the toss up in 2016 was Trump and Bernie Sanders. Who do I vote for? Who's going to go to Washington and fight for me? Do you think that was on the table as well?
I think, if you look at all the other big city races, Atlanta, D.C., even more recently New York City, was the issue, was the animated issue, whether it's real or perceived. And I think, frankly, you have a lot of national figures who like to say that just hiring more police or clamping down in one way or the other is going to solve issues connected to crime when you need long-term and near-term solutions. I think it's unfortunate that the narrative that somehow we clamp down tomorrow and that's going to address the issue.
We are going to see. What about these Zargazal politics that some people say that Paul Vallis has been practicing? Some people say, look, when you say law and order, that is something that really discomfits Black voters. Because when you hear law and order, that never bodes well for Black and brown people. What about those things? Because do you expect, should this be a Paul Vallis, Brandon Johnson, or Paul Vallis, Chewy Garcia, Paul Vallis, Madam Mayor Lori Lightfoot, do you think that this is a will race and some other hot button issues figure prominently in this runoff race?
That's where Chicago, that's always this, right? In every election.
Do you know what? Hold on one moment if you don't mind. We're bringing up Paul Vallis. Stay right here. Want to get your feedback on what he has to say.
City, the type of
Success because I've always had the good sense to listen to the community, to empower the community, and draw my leadership from the community. Public safety is the fundamental right of every American. It is a civil right. And it is the principal responsibility of government. And we will have a safe Chicago. We will make Chicago the safest city in America.
Listening into Paul Vallis give a victory speech as he is.
Thank you.
So what do you make of that, everyone? Call us. And, well, you know, every time, even when you leave office, you always hold on to the handles. Alderman Pawar, what do you make of he has put crime and safety, but more than that, more than anything, crime at the center of his campaign, at the center of this urban narrative, if you will.
I mean, this has been a consistent theme in most all big city races in the last year or so. The thing I will give him credit for that he's done well is moderate over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. Is kind of move more to the left on issues, on economic development. And so I think it gives them the air of sort of being a moderate force. But I think, you know, this issue about crime, again, whether real or perceived, continues to be an animating force in big city races in the last couple of years. And I hope that over the next 5 weeks, the conversation is about addressing the root causes of crime. You can't have entire swaths of the city, you know, forced to participate in capitalism without having the access to capital, and then not understand that people are going to come up with alternative economies that they're going to turn down the things to put food on the table. So I'm hopeful that, you know, the outcomes are what they are, and that there is debate about economic and social justice for the next 5 weeks.
Well, we are going to have to see because it just, I don't know. I'm just wondering if I hope that this campaign stays elevated, all of it. I really hope so. I'm just wondering if that's going to happen.
I think it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of mudslinging, and you know, and race hopefully doesn't play a major role in it, but I think it likely will, given Chicago's political history. Again, I think what I hope happens is that there is a real debate about how we solve for inequality and poverty and the yawning divide in this city, because that is the root cause of all of the most pressing issues we see in the city today, whether it is crime, whether it is health outcomes, whether you're talking about food deserts or banking deserts. These are all interconnected. Some cities, some parts of the city do well, but the part of the city that I live in, part of the city I used to represent, there is no issue with getting access to capital or resources or investment. And then there's that spot in the city where we tinker around the margins with philanthropy and grants and credits. So I hope we force that conversation, you know, with Paul Vallis and most likely Brandon Johnson.
Before we go, what do you want us to know? What do you want us to look out for over the next day, 2 weeks, until April 4th? What do you expect us as responsible citizens, as engaged citizens? What do you need us to say, do? Please help.
What I would say is, you know, I think there are going to be conversations about who's for police, who's against police, who's for defunding them, and it's going to become about, you know, do someone really care about your safety? And I would just say that as voters, as citizens, we should be forcing them to talk about root causes. Talk about the root causes of why why the city people are struggling. You know, we should get both candidates to talk about their plans for building affordable housing at scale. The fact that, you know, Chicago has access to 20% of the world's fresh water, and people are going to move here. They're going to make sure when people move here because of climate change, that the city is equitable. There are lots of big picture questions that we need to force a debate on, and that you pulled into the mud from. I know that probably sounds naive, but you have to be hopeful that this conversation is elevated.
Wow. Wow. Well, you know, we are going to see what's going to happen because I tell you what, I think between now and April 4th, it is going to be exciting, not exciting. Exciting. I mean, it's going to be something else. And I hope that you will come back to the show because we'd like to get your thoughts going toward the election. It's not just enough to have you on election night, but you have a lot to say. And it takes all of the oars in the water to turn this ship around. Everyone, uh, we're so honored that you're with us tonight. Blessings to you. Everybody, that wraps it up for me, but I want you to stay right here because we are the station where you will get what's really happening behind that curtain, what's really happening in progressive politics. I'm coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, right here in Chicago. Medallion, me and Medallion. Stay right here for Joni Esposito. Back in just a moment.
Jerry doesn't really like that one.
Oh, thank you. He called that.
No, I called that.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'm going to call Rich, Steve,
have up to
and then I don't
$20,000 in
have
federal
Cameron's
student
number,
loans
but
forgiven.
I'll figure
Sagar
it out.
Magane reports
Okay.
the program may not withstand the Supreme Court's scrutiny.
Lower
Thank
courts
you.
have blocked
Do you need me to do anything else?
$400 billion
Well,
over
that's
30
it.
years.
You're done, right?
The
I'm
High
done,
Court
sweetie.
conservatives appear
Oh, I'm so glad to see you.
Oh, I'm girl. Let me know one day. Lunch is on me.
Oh,
I love y'all for
God
getting up with
bless
me.
you.
I love you. I'm tired now, though. Y'all been going since 2 this morning. I love you. No.